Hey, it's Juck. This linebacker room was a question heading into the offseason. Yeah, no more. Cody Simon, green dot guy, captain of the team, block go recipient. Next to him, Sonny Styles, finally playing the spot that he was always supposed to play. He's built his body up. James Laurinaitis said he's ready. CJ Hicks in relief of Sonny, or maybe he pops up and starts. James said that's the way he's going to play it. The dude's the ultimate weapon if you go to 3. Listen, you got Gabe Powers and Arvell Reese fighting for the spot behind Cody. Those dudes are beasts. This room's loaded. Let's get it.
And I don't think he's going to throw the ball as much as he thinks he's going to throw the ball now that Chip Kelly's on board. And I'm happy about that. More quarterback.
The truth is Ryan Day has made a change philosophically, but it's none of those.
You all know who wins. LSU is the drunkest fan base in the country.
And welcome into Juckonbucks on a Tuesday. Appreciate y'all so much for joining me this morning. And you might be catching me for the second hour in a row as I just wrapped up with my buddies Ron James and Q over at the Best Damn Media for the morning roast, the morning Juckeye roast this morning. And we had a lot of fun. If you don't, if you're not hip to those guys, check them out, man. Best Damn Media on YouTube. They're awesome. I really love their show. If you watch a lot of Buckeye shows every day, definitely one you might want to add into your rotation. They're on every morning at 8 o'clock, and they're excellent. And then yesterday, I was on Scoop Duck with my buddy Max Torres. He is a recruiting guy who covers Oregon for On3. But yesterday, we talked about all things college football. Had a good time with him. I'll put that link to that show in the description as well. And we've got some football on Thursday that I'm really excited for. Colorado, North Dakota State, the Bison. I'll be rooting Bison all the way, and it is Bison with a Z sound, not an S. I've been corrected by some angry North Dakotans about that before. My Aunt Susie, she's a North Dakotan, and Colorado is, they've got a shot to lose this game. They're only a 9-point favorite. North Dakota State, not the juggernaut they once were. It's actually now South Dakota, who is the big dog in the FCS instead of North Dakota, which is strange that the Dakotas rule FCS football. But that'll be an entertaining one, I think. And I've had some people say, why don't we just pop up on a live so we can have the chat running and watch the game? What the hey? We're going to do it. 7 o'clock on Thursday. We're going to pop it up on Juckonbucks, do a little live, watch the game, talk for a little bit about it, and hopefully see the Bison get off to a good start and hang with Colorado, unless you're rooting for Colorado. I certainly will not be. But also North Carolina and Minnesota. Yeah, ACC Big Ten matchup. PJ Fleck and his nerdy rear end. Mac Brown. I love Mac Brown. He's still holding on, getting pithy comments out there. So good for him. And then, of course, tonight, we've got the documentary. Now, I know that this is supposed to be a puff piece, right? I'm wondering, maybe there's a counterpoint. You know, when you watch some of these things, you got the person that's clearly full of crap giving their side of the story. And then they'll like put the cop on and the cop's telling you about what really happened. Is there a chance that we might see something like that? Or is this all going to be Stallions? I don't know. I hope there's a counterpoint. If there is, it could be pretty good. If there isn't, it's just going to be ridiculous. But, you know, maybe we'll, I saw somebody say the other day, a Michigan podcaster on Twitter, that they have cooperated this entire time. They've played nice this entire time. And the NCAA wants to drop this before the Stallions documentary on purpose because the Stallions documentary is supposed to be positive for them, which I don't even like. Everybody knows this dude's full of crap. Like, I don't know how you could think this is positive for you, but they think that they have played nice. Everything about the way they've handled this, from the president all the way down, has been just arrogant and defiant the whole time with Tony Petitti in the Big Ten, everything, total defiance. Harbaugh, I mean, everything about it was defiant. And they think they've played nice. And now they really want them to fight the NCAA tooth and nail for whatever comes next, which I have no idea what comes next. I'm excited to see what's in that NOA, if there's anything new. What I do know is that a lot of people were thinking, because Minter and Robinson had kind of, it said that they were, Nicole Auerbach's tweet said that they were settling their case or whatever that was, that it meant maybe they knew and they were taking like a plea deal to get out of this. But that was for other violations. Recruiting stuff was, remember Minter had, it was $100 check he wrote in some golf outing and some other recruiting violation. Total nonsense violations. That's what I don't like it when they put nonsense violations in with something so big like this, because then it lets the defenders say, look, it's all a joke. And I just, the NCAA always screws something up. But releasing this thing before the Stallions documentary certainly looks intentional to me. And this tit for tat that these two organizations have going back and forth, it's so petty, and I absolutely love it. But MGM released their total tickets to win the national championship bet. So this is not the total amount of money, which would be something totally different. This is tickets, which kind of measures the general public. So who does the general public think is going to win the national championship? And you can also say, yeah, there's definitely a lot of fan influence in these kind of numbers. Money tells a different story, but the number of tickets, definitely some fan influence. And you've got the Buckeyes at number 1 with 19.3%. That's not surprising. Georgia being 12%, 7 points below them, that's kind of surprising. Texas over Oregon, and there I think you're seeing some fan influence. Texas, obviously a huge fan base. Oregon, not so much. I'm sure Dan Lanning will use that as motivation, though, for the fellas. Nobody believes in you and all that jazz. Then you've got 6% of the tickets on Alabama, 4% on Tennessee. That a little bit surprising, but you get a bigger payoff, so not a bad bet. After Tennessee, you got Michigan ahead of Notre Dame, and then you've got Ole Miss. Ole Miss, obviously not a huge fan base, and I think a little bit of skepticism on on Lane Kiffin. They look a little alike. On Lane Kiffin getting it done. And boy, Lane Kiffin, I got some more about him in a second. But a lot of skepticism out there about Ole Miss. LSU and Colorado tied at number 10 with 3.3%. So just as many people think that Colorado will win the national championship as LSU. And I'm not surprised by it, because all of the new Colorado fans know absolutely nothing about football, and they honestly think that this team can win a national championship. They thought so last year. They're ahead of Florida State. Now, I would have thought with all the offseason buzz about Florida State, coming off an undefeated season with DJU and people talking him up, that Florida State would have done better in this particular area. But 2.3% above Penn State at 1.9. Penn State at only 1.9, which is wild. And we've got a little segment here today about the Big Ten schedules. If you haven't seen Penn State's, they got a cakewalk to the playoff. But Lane Kiffin. So I thought that Ole Miss should have been over Alabama in the AP poll. 5. Alabama's 5. I think Ole Miss deserves that nod. They've got a lot of big bodies. They got them from the portal. The trenches look really good. And much like Florida State, I put up a short the other day and called Mike Norvell Portal Mike. And people absolutely blasted me, because here's the thing. I can't say anything about another team without them turning it about Ohio State, right? Even if it's totally objective. So I called him Portal Mike, and they got all offended, and they said I should look at myself, right? Ohio State's the poster boy for the transfer portal, because the general public really thinks that Ohio State is made up of like 50% transfers. So I haven't done this in a while, and I went and looked, and it's actually gotten better for our case. So there was a while there where I was telling everybody, look, 97 teams in the country out of 134 took more transfers this year than Ohio State. It is now at 121. 121 teams out of 134 took more transfers than Ohio State. You could make a case that Ohio State is anti-portal when 122 out of 134 have taken more than you. That's pretty wild. Ohio State remains with the philosophy, and they're living with that philosophy, that they are going to look in the portal and replace a hole, if there's a hole to be replaced, and someone there to fill it. 7 transfers. Kiffin had 25. That's even more than Mike Norvell. Lane Kiffin had the number 1 transfer portal class. Some bozo over at ESPN wrote another one of these $20 million roster articles at Ohio State. We've now seen like 4 pieces, the exact same piece, different guys. They get a ton of hits. Thanks, Ross Bjork. But you'll never guess who retweeted it. Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin retweets it. How Ohio State built a $20 million national championship or bust roster. And underneath, the main man, Jermaine Matthews Jr. Brother, you got a team to coach Saturday. Lock in. This dude's awesome. I absolutely love that kid. He's excellent. But seriously, man, this guy is something. He is the reason that $13 million figure for Ohio State got spread. Remember when that was kicking all over? That was from a quote Ryan Day made in June of 2022. And he kicked that up this summer as a way to get his boosters to donate more so he could spend more in the transfer portal, which he did because he got that money from them. And he bolstered his team. The #1 transfer portal class. The guy with the #1 transfer portal class is calling out Ryan Day in Ohio State again. This dude is unbelievable. I don't know if he's just like trolling at this point or if he honestly is trying to make a statement here. Probably just trolling. But, you know, he gets under my skin regardless. A lot of people getting him back with the Quinshon stuff. You know, if you think about it, IGB too. Heck, Taiwan Malone too. Yeah, we got a couple of Ole Miss guys. A couple of good Ole Miss fellas. Dabo Swinney is no longer taking live callers on his radio show. The decision comes after an encounter with Tyler from Spartanburg during last football season, where Clemson started 4-4. I'm sure you've heard that. That was an amazing call. Tyler absolutely eviscerated Dabo, and Dabo fought back. One of the complaints that Tyler from Spartanburg had, and if you were a fan of Clemson, this would probably drive you nuts, that of his 10 countable coaches, only 3 of them were outside hires with experience. 7 of them were either from the program or like friends or family of Dabo. You look at guys in the program when you look at your head coach of a team, and think back to Bill Davis, who was in Urban's wedding and everybody wanted him fired, but you knew he was Urban's buddy and it was going to take longer. Or you look at a guy like Parker Fleming, the special teams coordinator at Ohio State, who got an extension from Ryan Day because they were buddies after the worst season of special teams we've maybe ever seen. They've got 7 of those types on the Clemson staff. And when you're 4-4, that must seem like a nightmare. But Tyler from Spartanburg called him epic call, go down into history in the college football hilarity column. And he is no longer going to do that show, which is a shame. I remember Urban had one of those shows, and that was pretty entertaining as well. That was back on regular radio. If that was on a podcast, I would definitely listen to that. I'll tell you what, though, I got a feeling that this Saturday, guys, and I don't know if this is just wishful thinking on my part, I feel like Clemson's going to hang with Georgia. 13.5-point dog. I know you think I'm crazy, but I think that Clemson is going to hang with them, and we get to watch that game to start off the day Saturday before the Buckeyes game, Georgia and Clemson, and I think Clemson's going to give us a good game. I think they are. I'm calling it now. We're taking Clemson and the 13.5. I'm not calling them to win, but we're going to take those points. When you have a large batch of shirts to get printed, you can go into Google now. It's never been easier. You pop up the site. There's 100 of them. You enter in your picture, what you want, design the shirt, and you get it, and you will be totally dissatisfied. I promise you there's always something that goes wrong. That's why you got to deal with the official sponsor of Juckonbucks, Columbus Apparel Co. Not only will they do it for you, they did it for me too. A full line of Juckonbucks gear, and they are the official sponsor because they love the Buckeyes and they love the Juckeyes. They are Juckeyes over there. So deal with them. If you got some screen printed stuff to get done, Tom and the guys over there will make sure it's done properly. You will not be dissatisfied like I have been so many times over my career because I have to order these things for uniforms. Every single time there's something wrong, and you got it. Once you get it, you're done. You're cooked. These guys will make sure it's done right. They'll take care of you. ColumbusApparelCo.com. Check them out. Check out the Juckonbucks gear while you're there. When's the last time you bought a piece of memorabilia, a t-shirt, a mug that said Ohio State Big Ten champs. I don't know. Maybe you're different than me. I maybe have one thing in all my memorabilia that says Big Ten champs. It was never something that meant much to me. It seemed like a foregone conclusion that if we had a good season, yeah, we won the Big Ten. It was just a whatever. It was the game that came before that and what came after that that was the exciting thing to me, not the actual winning of the conference. That's a little different now. The conference is 18 teams. It means a little more to win the Big Ten. With the addition of these new West Coast teams, not only does it add those awesome games, like there's so many more good games and exciting games in the Big Ten this year. It's become more exciting. I think it's an exciting conference now. A long time, it's been not a very exciting conference. Now we got some spice to the conference. And with these extra teams also comes an unfortunate reality that I think we're going to have to deal with in a lot of years when we get the two teams that are going to be playing in that Big Ten championship game, and it's a tiebreaker. Looking through the schedules of the contenders for the Big Ten, even kind of the outside contenders for the Big Ten, I think that there's a good chance this year that we may have maybe one undefeated team and two, maybe even three one-loss teams. And the Big Ten today has released their tiebreakers, which we'll go through them here in a minute. I don't know, man. I got to number 3 and then I was lost. You'll see. But let's take a look at the contenders' schedules. We don't need to look at ours. We know who our big games are. We got Oregon. We got Penn State. We got Michigan. The Oregon game, we're going to be a slight underdog in. The rest, if we win all the games we should win, we'll have one loss. If we win that game, we'll be undefeated. We know that. The other contenders, let's look at it in the order of Vegas odds. And we've got Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State, Michigan, USC, Iowa. All those teams I would call contenders. I don't really think USC is I would put Iowa above USC. A lot of that is based on the schedule, which you're about to see. But we'll start with Oregon. Oregon's schedule, just looking at the big games, they've got Ohio State on October 12th at home. November 2nd, they go to Michigan. November 18th, they go to Wisconsin. And then they've got their rivalry game. Now, I think they're going to be favored right now. If we just look ahead, every single one of their games, they're going to be favored. So odds are they're going to be undefeated or have one loss heading into Big Ten championship time at the end of the regular season. Penn State. Penn State's big games, they are at Wisconsin. They are at USC. They've got Ohio State at home. That's it. At Wisconsin, at USC, Ohio State at home. James Franklin is a guy who wins the games he's supposed to win and loses whenever he plays above his head. In that scenario, he's going to be an underdog just one time to Ohio State. A really good shot at those guys being a one-loss team. So now you've got Ohio State, Penn State, and Oregon, all with a good chance of being either undefeated or one-loss teams. Let's go to USC. They're big games. And again, we're not counting the Notre Dame game to end the season or the opening game against LSU because those don't count. We're just looking at the Big Ten games. They go to Michigan. That's a tough one. They're definitely going to be an underdog there. They got Wisconsin and Penn State both coming out there to play them. Also Rutgers coming out there to play them. So, and Nebraska. That's a tough schedule. When you compare that schedule to Oregon's schedule, I mean, honestly, you can kind of sympathize with Lincoln's wanting to get LSU off the schedule. I mean, look at that. He's got LSU, Michigan, Rutgers, Wisconsin, Penn State, Notre Dame, and Washington. It's tough. It really is. It's a hell of a schedule. So as far as their odds, I have no idea how they're ahead of Iowa. Take a look at Iowa. All right. So Iowa starts off with Iowa State, Troy, Minnesota. Then they got Ohio State. They're going to be underdogs in that game. Then they've got Washington at home, Michigan State, a shell of themselves, Northwestern, easy breezy. Then they got a test with Wisconsin, but it's at home. Then they got UCLA. Then they have Maryland. Then they have Nebraska at home. So Ohio State, they'll be an underdog in. They've got Wisconsin and Nebraska, their two toughest tests at home. They got a good chance at losing just one game. They really do. It could absolutely happen, and that is 4 teams who have a decent shot at undefeated or one loss. Rutgers. Let's take a look at Rutgers. So Rutgers starts off with Virginia Tech out of conference. Then they've got Washington, Nebraska. There's one decently tough one. Wisconsin. There's another decently tough one. At USC, there's another decently tough one. And that's it. Nebraska, Wisconsin, and USC. There's a shot they could lose just one game. Let's look at Michigan. Look, we know they got Texas, Ohio State, and Oregon. Those are their 3 biggies. They've also got USC. Texas, USC, and Oregon all go to Ann Arbor. They obviously are going to be dogs against Ohio State. They're going to be dogs at home to Oregon and Texas. There's a chance they could win those games. They're at home. I mean, they've still got a very talented defense. Who knows if Orgy can start playing good right off the rip? It could happen. I mean, it's not beyond the realm of possibility. They are still coming into the season ranked 9th, and that's not nothing. We're still talking about a top 10 team here, most people think. And I think that there are definitely times where my judgment is clouded when I look at them. So I'm just kind of trying to give them the benefit of the doubt that maybe I'm being a little biased. It could happen once in a while. My point is, there are like 5 to 6 teams in the Big Ten who have a realistic shot at getting to that 11-1 mark. And then you got to go to the tiebreaker. And going to tiebreakers to get into that championship game is just garbage. I hate it. I don't know there's no way around it, I guess, but it just sucks. And let's read the tiebreakers that the Big Ten has come out with. Obviously, head-to-head result is number 1. Number 2 is the record against all common conference opponents. Number 3, the record against common opponents with the best conference record and proceeding through the common conference opponents based on their order of finish. And that's where they lost me. Number 4, the best cumulative conference winning percentage of all conference opponents. That's easy. I got that one. Number 5, the highest ranking by Sports Source Analytics following the regular season. This is just somebody's analytic. And number 6, a random drawing conducted by Commissioner Tony Petitti, a random drawing. So that's how we're going to get the second team in the conference championship. And there is a whole nother list for if there are 2 teams tied or 3 teams. It's going to be a disaster. I think we're going to see maybe every other year 2 teams that are at least 2 tied to get into that conference championship game. You could see 3 often. It's just wild, man. And this is what happens when you got 18 teams and no divisions, right? They took away divisions, which I was like, yeah, I'm for this. This is ridiculous. But really the issue with divisions was one division was incredibly weak and one was very strong. If you balance that out, you would deal with less tiebreakers, but you would also sometimes have a 2-loss team over here making it and 2 teams that are undefeated on this side and one doesn't get a chance to play for it. So you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. I get it, but I do hate going to tiebreakers for a championship game. The guy, Matt Guerrieri, the safeties coach, said the first thing they did together was watch every play of his from Alabama last year. They watched every play together. And obviously there's nothing on the screen, you know, it doesn't tell you the down, the distance, the formation, anything. And he said he recited the down, the distance, the formation to him every single play of every game last year. The guy's a savant. He's an unbelievable leader in a quiet way. Everybody looks up to him already. He's just ridiculous. He's the best athlete in the secondary. He's the best at everything, and he's humble, and he's just a great dude. The fact that we've got this guy for 2 years is just it's just unbelievable. You can't even put into words what this means and how valuable this is. Longtime columnist for CBS, Dennis Dodd, came to Columbus to do a piece on Caleb Downs, and he was given access to Ryan Day, Chip Kelly, Caleb and his dad, Gary, and Gene Smith about the portal aspect of bringing Caleb in here. It's a really good piece, and I wanted to go over a couple of quotes in here. So Chip Kelly says, "You'll talk to Caleb after practice, and he'll say, 'You gave us this formation, and that one was really hard to deal with.' I'm always trying to get feedback from him." So Caleb is relaying the good stuff, the stuff that Chip stumped them with, and Chip is taking that feedback and building off of it, which is pretty amazing. Also from Chip, sometimes you see a kid who has a ton of athletic ability, but is he going to be able to handle playing defense, playing special teams, coming over and having a package on offense? Caleb could do it in a second. Dennis Dodd says, Downs will be inserted for a few plays a game, if nothing else, as a decoy on offense. That's what Dennis Dodd said coming away with from his meeting with Chip, with Caleb. That's the first time I've heard anything about this happening every day. Every game, we got confirmation that there is a package installed in the offense with Caleb Downs at running back. First, I'd heard of that as well. 11 Warriors put out their top players for the Buckeyes. They had 10 staffers vote, and Caleb Downs is the #1 player in their opinion on the team. Denzel Burke, #2. That kind of surprised me. That's really good. I don't know. Caleb Downs is their #1 player on the team. Denzel Burke, #2, followed by Jack Sawyer, Travion, and Emeka rounding out the top 5. The craziest thing about this list is you can go down to number 12 and catch you Davison Igbinosun, who a lot of us think might eventually be a first-round draft pick. Carnell Tate, yeah, he just might be a first-round draft pick as well. Oh, Sonny Styles at number 17 on your team. This is just bananas, man. This team's bananas. When I was talking to Max, Florida State came up, and he is, he's in that online world where you deal with the customers, the paying customers, and covering a team. He's been on the Oregon beat. He's covered Dan Lanning. He covered Mario Cristobal. And he was saying in there, and I happened to catch this story yesterday as well, that there are a slew of Florida State fans who are absolutely furious with the Florida State beat for lying to them about their team, puffing them up, acting like they were going to be the best defensive line, a great offensive line, and they want refunds on their 247 subscriptions. These fans, and I know a lot of you kind of stuck up for them. Well, the last time I said that how they went and just complained the entire offseason about being snubbed. It was more than complained. They just went, ESPN did it all. Kirk Herbstreit's responsible for it. And like, it was funny the first couple weeks. They just kept on and on and on. Now, Kirk Herbstreit didn't help himself because he kept entertaining it and like trying to explain himself to them in these long Twitter messages, like this long, and try to make himself be the good guy. It was just ridiculous. My point is, this is a fan base that is very, very strange. They're demanding refunds from their beat writers because the team wasn't as good as they said they were going to be after one game. This is just a bizarre fan base, man, all around. Florida State, we got no love for them up here at Juckonbucks. It's risky to go about this the way Mike Norvell has gone about it. When you looked at their team last year, all of their stars were from the portal, all of them. And if you keep doing that, the portal's new. It's still new. This is another data point. If this doesn't work with this team that they were so confident in, they got a bunch of good pieces out of the portal. They're bragging about, we go about this different than everybody else. 70% of our money goes to portal and player retention, much more to portal than player retention, in my opinion. But if they fail this year after bringing in some really good transfers, last year they go undefeated doing it, it's starting to look more and more like, look, this is a risky proposition. It could boom or bust. You don't know people long when you sign them in the portal. You got to move fast. It's very transactional. I don't know. I wouldn't want our team to do what they do, to just kind of rely on that from year to year. This is portals. This is Norvell's strategy. This is the way they want to do it. And, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. That's what it is. Compare a team like that to a team like Ohio State, this 21 class, how long they've been together, the core of this team, the core of Florida State, like their most high-profile players, were all on a different team last year. All right, let's talk some recruiting news as the Buckeyes got a crystal ball today for, we just talked about them the other day, the Harris twins. Aiden Harris, this is the higher ranked of the two twin brothers, top 42 overall prospect in the class, the number 2 defensive lineman in the class for the 247 composite. The kid's a beast. He just tore up Providence Day. That's David Sanders High School. They only allowed them 6 points. And this is his brother, Drew. Drew is the slightly lower ranked of the two. He's a top 300 prospect in the country. He's a little undersized to be a defensive lineman, maybe a little big to be a linebacker. So he's a bit of a tweener, but he's got an Ohio State offer too. Now, Aiden said that the Buckeyes are his number 1 school right now. He also got the crystal ball. He's got a great relationship with LJ and Lallen Clark, and he does not know what Drew's top school is. Now, they live with their cousin, Thomas Davis Jr., and obviously Thomas Davis, former Carolina Panthers linebacker, their uncle. Thomas Davis Jr. also has a Buckeye offer. Notre Dame currently his number 1, but he really likes Ohio State, and they're in that next tier. So, not beyond the realm of possibility that you could get all 3 of these guys, which would be excellent. Also, they're teammates with Trajan Odom at Weddington High School. So, can you imagine this defense with those 2 twin brothers, Thomas Davis Jr. and Trajan Odom? That's a high school defense, man. That's crazy. But pretty awesome stuff. Really like this North Carolina connection. And another North Carolinian, Xavier Griffin Haynes, absolute prototypical edge at 6'6", 220, came to camp at Ohio State over the summer, got his offer from Larry. Things are progressing very fast, and it's thought that he may actually commit sometime soon to the Buckeyes. So North Carolina, maybe it's a sweet spot in the South that's not too far south that the Buckeyes have identified as a little honey hole where they can snag some good prospects, and I like it. Phillip Bell, wide receiver out of California, is going to make his decision this weekend, and he's going to decide between the Buckeyes and the USC Trojans. Most people think now that he's going to choose the Buckeyes. We know that his mother tragically passed away, and he's going to be doing this on the 31st, her birthday, on a yacht. So good for him. That's awesome. I thought that maybe there might be a chance that might persuade him to stick closer out towards where family is out west. It looks like most people close to the situation are thinking he's going to pick the Buckeyes. That would be fantastic, and that would pretty much close down the wide receiver class with 4 guys. But, of course, they'd still take Jerome Miles if he wanted to come. I just don't know how hard you continue to pursue Jerome Miles. I mean, he's going to pursue him as long as he can, but once the money starts getting up there with 4 receivers in the class, like there's just the Bucks are out. You know what I mean? It's not going to happen. Though it does look like Utah is really the leader in the clubhouse right now for him. I don't know how long that stands. You got LSU entering the competition now. Georgia's coming in. We know Texas A&M is in. We'll see if Utah can hold them off. And you know what? If we don't get him, I'd be a whole heck of a lot happier if he stayed at Utah instead of one of those spots, because the dude is really excellent. Jamie French. Remember Jamie? Jamie's going to make his decision this weekend as well. And it looks like he is going to choose Texas after a long, winding recruitment, flirting with a whole lot of different schools, being committed to Alabama, decommitting, essentially being silently committed to Ohio State, de-silently committing, and then flirting with Miami, then Florida, LSU, and eventually ending up in Texas. I think it fits him great. He is the Lamborghini kind of kid, and that's where he should be. But it gives Texas a second 5-star wide receiver. And after just getting the 5-star commitment from Jonah Williams, they've also got Michael Terry, another 5-star about to commit to them. They could be looking at 4 or 5 stars in like 45 days, which is pretty incredible when you look at where they were at when they lost to Corian Moore to Oregon. It was down pretty bad. They were at like 37 in the rankings. They have shot up the rankings. They could end up in the top 5 class, which would be pretty fantastic and quite the turnaround, especially when they missed out on so many of the big time prospects in their own state. I mean, a lot. So good stuff cooking now for Sark and the Horns. All right, guys, that'll be our show today. Just want to get to one comment tonight before I check out. This is a longtime listener telling me I'm not going to watch anymore. I'll miss your content. I just can't with Menace. It was great while it lasted. Hope you didn't sign a long-term contract with Menace. Menace didn't do you a favor. Juck, I missed the old Juck, the one that wasn't beholden to anyone. Now, I've gotten several of these. I assumed there'd be 1 or 2. I didn't think it'd be like my OGs. That guy's an OG. That kind of stings. But I got to say, man, those guys have been nothing but, number 1, good to me and my family. Number 2, there's nothing different about my show at all. Like nothing. I didn't start swearing all of a sudden, like dropping F-bombs every third sentence. You know what I mean? Like nothing's changed. In fact, they told me don't change a thing. We want your show because we like your show. And specifically, that was about my opinions. Like, don't change your opinion to try to not offend us or not match ours. Just do you. And that's what I do. So nothing's changed at all. And if you're going to leave the show over absolutely nothing changing, I don't know what that says about you. It doesn't say anything about me. So I'm going to keep doing what I do. And I hope that if anybody else wants to leave, you can have a conversation with me first about it. And we can talk through it, because it's not that serious, guys. It's just not. So I hate to see you go, my friend, but you know, I don't know what your hang up is. It certainly had nothing to do with me. Anyway, that's our show tonight. Wish it could have ended on a better note. I apologize, guys, but I will see you tomorrow. Please like the video. Check me out in podcast form. We got a hell of a show tonight to watch this documentary. I'm pumped for it. We might pop up and do a live. I don't know. Check it out. We'll see. Set your alarm bells. If you're over on Menace and you're watching me, make sure you subscribe on Juckonbucks and set those alarm bells, because we're going to be popping up and doing a lot of lives now that football season is live. We're going to watch some games together. All sorts of jazz. Can't wait. I'll talk to you guys soon. Juckonbucks out.